Chapter 9 Escape. On the morning of election day, when the townspeople came together to meet their newly elected governor, Hester Prynne came into the marketplace in her usual dress of grey cloth, with the scarlet letter on her bosom. The quiet, sad look of her face hid the excitement deep inside her. Who in the crowd could guess her thought that day? Look at the last time of the scarlet letter and its weather. In a little while I'll be beyond your reach. I will be free, and the scarlet letter of shame, which has burned on my bosom for 7 long years, will lie forever at the bottom of the sea. Little Pearl, sensitive to her mother's excitement without knowing the reason for it, was dancing alone at Hester's side, singing or giving happy little shoots. "Why are the people not working today, mother?" she asked, when she saw the crowd in the marketplace. "And look how many strangers there are here today, Indians and sailors among them. What is everyone waiting for?" "They are waiting to see the new governor go past," answered Hester, "and the magistrate and the priest, and all the great and good people," with the sailor marching in front of them to the music. "Will Mr. Dimsdale be there?" asked Pearl. "Will he hold out both his hands to me, as he did that day in the forest?" "He will be there, child," said Hester, "but he will not speak to you today, and you must not speak to him." "What a strange sad man he is," said the child. "He held your hand and mine at night on the scaffold, and again in the forest, but here on the sunny day among all the people he does not know us, and he must not speak to him. What a strange, sad man, with his hand always over his heart." "Be quiet, Pearl," said Hester. "You don't understand these things. Don't think about the priest. Look around and see how happy everyone is today, on this holiday." And it was true. Most people were smiling, and there was a lot of talk and laughter. The sailor from the Spanish ship, with the sun-burned faces and long beards, were noisier than most. They shouted and laughed, and drank wine from bottles. Sailors in those days obeyed only the law of the sea, and were allowed to do much as they liked on land. Even the Puritans smiled at their nosy ways. So it was no surprise that anyone wanted to see a respectable man like old Roger Chillingworth come into the marketplace, speaking with the captain of the ship. Moments later, when the two men went their separate ways, the captain walked across to Hester Prynne. As usual, people avoided standing near her, which meant that she and the captain could talk privately. "So, misery," said the captain, "another one to join you, and with 2 doctors, our own ship's doctor and this other doctor, we need not fear sea-fever on this voyage." "What do you mean?" said Hester, alarmed. "You have another passenger?" Didn't you know that this Dr. Chillingworth, he calls himself, he decided to travel with you," said the captain. "Oh, but you must know, he told me he's a good friend of the gentleman you spoke about." They know each other well," agreed Hester, trying desperately to look calm. "They live in the same house." No more words were spoken between them, but at that moment she saw old Roger Chillingworth standing in a far corner of the marketplace. He was smiling at her, a smile which, even across the wide and busy square, carried secret and fearful meaning. Before she could think clearly again, there was the sound of music, and a moment later she saw the band coming, followed by soldiers. Little Pearl laughed and jumped up and down excitedly. Next came the magistrates and then the briars. Mr. Diamondsled was among them, but although his feet marched with music, it is doubtful whether he actually heard it, as he seemed to be deep in thought. Hester watched him, and her heart was heavy. Was this the same man who had sat with her in the forest, holding her hand? He looked so different now, walking proudly with his head held high, and without a single look at her. It was a dream, she thought. There cannot be real love between us. How can there be a man in his position? Pearl noticed the sadness which had suddenly come over her mother, and became worried and uncomfortable. When the priest had gone by, she looked into her mother's face and said, "Is that the same priest who kissed me in the forest?" "Be quiet, little Pearl," whispered her mother. "We must not talk in the marketplace about the things that happened to us in the forest." Then she heard her name spoken and turned to see Mr. Higgins behind her. "Now, who could believe it?" the old lady whispered to Hester. "Look at our priest, Mr. Dimson. He looks so godly today, and only a little while since he went from his study to walk in the forest. And we know what that means," Hester bridled. "Can you be sure, Hester, that he is the same man that you met among the trees?" "Mr. Higgins, I don't know what you're talking about," said Hester. "Was the old woman as masked as she seemed? Did she really dance in the forest with the evil one? The evil himself? Come on, Hester. The Dark One knows those who have seen their names in his book." And laughing crazily, Mr. Higgins walked on. By this time the first prayers had been said in the church meeting-house, and Hester could hear Mr. Timothy beginning his sermon. She saw close to the Scarlet platform, where she could hear most of his words. His voice was strong and clear and sweet. Sometimes he spoke quietly, and other times with great passion. But Hester, who knew the guilt and misery in his heart, could hear in his voice a cry of pain, a cry for every soul of the man. She listened, unable to move from the scaffold, that place of public shame which she knew so well. Little Pearl, meanwhile, had moved away and was playing and dancing about in the marketplace. Whenever she saw something which interested her, she ran across to it. She ran across to stare at the group of Indians, then ran into the center of the group of sailors, who laughed and tried to join in her game, but she could not leave them. The captain tried to kiss her, but she danced away. Then he called to her. "Your mother is the woman with the scarlet letter, isn't she?" he said. "Will you give her a message? Tell her that I spoke with the old doctor, and he will bring the other gentlemen to the ship with him. She did only take herself and you. Will you tell her that?" Pearl ran through the crowd to her mother, and repeated the captain's word. Hester listened with a growing misery. The plan for herself and the prize now seemed hopeless. And even as she suffered this great disappointment, a crowd was coming together around Hester. Mostly people from the countryside who had heard about but not seen the woman with the scarlet letter, and wanted to stare at her. The Indians, too, came to look. And while Hester stood in the center of that circle of shame, Mr. Arthur Dimsel stood in the church and received the love and respect of all who listened to him. When he finished his sermon, there was silence inside the meeting house. A minute later, the crowd began to leave the church, all talking at once. How beautifully their God Mr. Dempsey had spoken, they said. What a wise and godly man he was. There was a sadness, too, not in the words themselves, but in the way he spoke them. A sadness of someone who is about to die. Yes, the priest, who they loved and who loved them, had the son of a man who would not be in this world for much longer. And Mr. Dempsey, it was his proudest moment. Now the band began to play again, and the soldiers got ready to let everyone to the town hall. The people stepped back to make room for the governor, the magistrates, the officers of the town, and the priest. They shouted and waved, but the noise began to die away as the crowd saw their young priest, Mr. Jameson. How weak and pale he looked, suddenly. Where was the proud man who had marched to the church earlier? The man who had spoken with such passion in the meeting house? His face was the face of a man already half dead. One of the other priests, old Mr. Wilson, stepped forward to offer his help, but Mr. Demesel waved him away. They were near the scaffold now, and there stood Hester Prowd holding little Pearl's hand, and there was the scarlet letter on her bosom. Arthur Demesel stopped, unable to go on, and then he turned to the scaffold and held out his hand. Hester, he said, come here, come, my little Pearl. His face had the look of a man, both sad and joyful, who has finally gotten a battle inside himself. The child ran to him and threw her arms around his knees. Hester Prime, moving slowly like a woman in a dream, also came near, but paused before she reached him. At that moment, Roger Chillingford pushed through the crowd and caught hold of the bride's arm. Stopped, he whispered to Mr. Demesset. What are you doing? Wave back that woman. Push away thy tears. All will be well. Do not do this. I can still save you. You are too late, answered Price. With God's help, I shall escape you now. He put out his hand to Hester. Hester Brandt, God has made me strong enough at this last moment to do the thing that I failed to do 7 years ago. Come out and be strong with me. Come and stand with me on the scaffold. There was great excitement on the crowd, but the priest and magistrate would not believe what they were saying, and then remained silent. They saw the young priest with Hester's arm around him, and his hand holding little Pearl's hand. The three of them climbed the steps to the scaffold, and were followed by old Rosertini. Is this the only place that you could find to escape from me? Whispered Chillingford, the scaffold. It is God who led me here, said Mr. Demesel, and I thank him for it. But he trembled at his turn to Hester. Is this not better than what we planned in the forest? I don't know, she replied hurriedly. Better? We might both die. A little bird might die with us. God will decide, but He is merciful, said the priest. Let me do now what thou hast told me to do. I am a dying man, Hester. Let me accept my shame before I die. He turned and looked down at the road. People of New England, cried. You know have loved me. Look at me now. As I stand here with this woman for 7 long years, you have called her a sinner and hate her. You have seen the scarlet letter on her bosom and have crossed the street to avoid her. But there has been someone living among you whose sins and shame you have not known. He stepped forward away from Hester and the child. God knew him, David knew him, and now, at the hour of his death, you shall know him. He stands in front of you. Look again at Hester's scarlet letter. With all its mysterious horror, it is only a shadow of what it is on my own bosom. Look, look, see for yourself. And he pulled open his shears for them to see his teeth. Cries of horror came from the crowd. For a moment the priest stood proudly, a man who has won a battle over his own pain and fear. Then he fell to the ground. Hester lifted him and held his head against her bosom. Chillingworth knelt down beside him, an empty, dull look on his face. You have escaped me, Chillingworth repeated again and again. You have escaped me. May God forgive you, the young priest said to him. You too have sinned deeply. He turned his dying eyes toward Hester and the child. My little bear, he said, his voice almost a whisper. Will you kiss me now? Pearl kissed him, and her tears fell on her father's face. Hester, said the priest, goodbye. Won't we meet again? She whispered, her face close to his. Won't we meet in heaven and be together forever? Hester, I don't know, he said, but God is merciful. He has proved his mercy. He gave me these burning pains to suffer on my bosom. He saved me the dark and terrible old man to keep the pains always dreadful. He has brought me here to die a death of shame in front of the people. Without all of this, I will be lost forever. For this I thank him. I thank God. Goodbye. The final word came with the priest's dying breath.